Body shot. Ooh, that hurt, didn't it?
When the adrenaline starts pumping and you know what you can do with this right hand, it's hard to not do that.
Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. UFC Columbus. We had some great fights on our hand. Fight of the night between Matt Brown and Bryan Barberena. Believe it or not, Bryan Barberena squeaks out the split decision win in Matt Brown's hometown. I thought we had a little something called hometown advantage these days, but I guess not. This is the big leagues after all. Folks, I do want to mention there's not going to be many things more exciting than the slap heard around the world. Will Smith putting his hands on Chris Rock at the Oscars. AJ, brother, I know this is a little unconventional, but why don't we get these two dudes a quick contract in Dana White Contender Series, my man? Why don't we get them there in the big show real quick, let them fight for a contract? Because clearly they want to get their hands on each other. They want to go scrap a little bit over a little bit of verbal altercations. We know, AJ, in the fight game, right? You got to have a thick skin. It's very important as part of the business. We just saw what happened with Colby Covington, Jorge Masvidal, sneaking up, sucker punching dudes in steakhouses and all that. How are you doing, brother? Give me your thoughts on this situation. You know we got to start it off right. This is the hottest story on the block right now. What are you thinking, brother?
This is the hottest story on the block, brother. I'm doing well. Glad I ain't letting nobody else touch my face like that. That's all right. I'm saying, man. This is wild. This is wild, bro. Yeah. I was just telling you. I just looked at your Instagram, saw it, folks. If you didn't check it out, I'm sure you have. The slap heard around the world. Will Smith getting a little wild, man. I think it's a little out of pocket. I mean, I'm a firm advocate of handling your business like a man. Yeah. But this is an interesting one, brother. I'm doing well, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. I'm doing good. All things aside, took a quick trip to California up over this weekend. Was able to catch the fights. Had to do a little bit of on the phone action and all that to catch up. But listen, it was some great fights overall. We saw some real new studs in their respective divisions. We're talking about Manon Fiorot. I don't know how to say the name properly. But the Beast, that's her name. That's what we need to call her. Huge win over Jennifer Maia. She beat the number 4 contender, AJ, in the women's flyweight division. At this point, you in the mix for a title shot. But then again, we remember who's the queen of the flyweight division, and that's Valentina Shevchenko. I don't think too many people are going to give her too many problems these days. But AJ, Curtis Blaydes said, I'm not a wrestler anymore, guys. Respect the hands. You think I'm going to come in and wrestle, I'm going to put the hands on you. Now, I do need to give a little bit of a memorial, and I do need to let you get some words of encouragement, some words of bounce back for your boy Chris Daukaus, brother, because I think I am firmly ahead in the Tom Aspinall, Chris Daukaus, who's going to make it to the top of the division first. But I will admit, Daukaus did get the fast track, and Aspinall hasn't quite gotten it yet. What are your words on this situation right here, brother? The UFC has kind of put a big blow to the momentum of one of their biggest contenders to date, but then again, maybe they were just hedging it. They said, we got Aspinall and Daukaus. We'll see which one of them going to get to the title first. We'll see. What do you think, bro?
Man, Derick, the highest highs and the lowest lows, man. Yeah. Daukaus was on an absolute climb, and then getting stiffed by a wrestler is probably one of the most embarrassing things that can happen to you, because that's what everybody thought, man. Curtis Blaydes is going to be humping his way to victory. Nonetheless, this dude shows up and knuckles up. This is a rough one, man. I mean, I think, don't get me wrong, but Daukaus is still that upper level of fighter right now, right? Probably, right below almost that gatekeeper position, that 6, that 7 around there. He's kind of solidified himself. But I think this is all credit to Curtis Blaydes, man. Curtis Blaydes showed up, proved a point, even delivered like a good speech right after. I forget exactly. I forget if he called anybody out or not. But either way, he showed up and he handled business inside and outside of the ring. Very impressive for Curtis Blaydes, but man, for Chris Daukaus, best thing I could say, keep it grinding, brother. I mean, you solidified yourself in the middle of the pack. Yeah. Still better than most people out there. Got to keep it working, get those hands a little better, and get your head off center line.
Yeah, brother. I mean, listen, if you're a top 10 fighter in any division, come on, brother. You don't really got nothing to worry about. One of the things Curtis Blaydes, did say about Chris Daukaus was that maybe he should jump down to light heavyweight. Maybe he's not a real bona fide heavyweight, because just because you weigh 245 pounds does not make you a bona fide heavyweight. Let's not forget, the big boys in the division, these are 265, you know what I mean? These are some heavy cats, so it's going to be a little bit tough. AJ, is that win bigger, though? Because this was kind of a middling heavyweight divisional fight, I guess I should say. Was that fight bigger than Kai Kara Francis' huge win over Askar Askarov, brother. Like, I don't think there's a win bigger than that, because Kai Kara-France went from overlooked, went from the dude who got choked out by Brandon Royval, who we thought Royval was going to be the next big thing, to arguably, I mean, you took out the number 2 dude in the division. You have to fight the winner of Deiveson Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno in their 4th fight, because that's a historic event in and of itself. But what do you think, man? Is that bigger? Is that just about the same? Or did a star just get born with Kai Kara-France?
Well, I don't know if a star's gone born. That might be almost too big of a fight, but I do think it was the biggest fight on the card was the Kai Kara-France versus Askar Askarov. But it was crazy because it almost feels like it was a little undershadowed.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't get the hype it deserved. People weren't going crazy that Askarov lost in whatever long of a streak he had.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely felt like the big boys got the shine that night. But I thought it was the Kara-France fight, man. He looked good. I guess it could have been maybe because he was defending instead of dominating. Yeah. So maybe that's why I didn't get the shine. What do you think?
I don't know, man. I think it's because they're smaller weights. I think that's the big reason why. I think it's because it's Matt Brown's hometown in Columbus. This was about Matt Brown because originally I think it was Askarov versus Kara-France, and then that was the third bout underneath the main card, right? So it was like right before the co-main event, but then they just switched it. Good old switcheroo, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, even though these are some banging fighters right here, 125-pound division isn't the most flashy and all that. More technical than it is known for their knockout prowess, and we didn't see a knockout in the fight, so I mean, it kind of goes to show. Still was a great fight either way. All right, AJ, let me do a little bit of housekeeping before we talk about the main card, break that whole entire thing down, folks. Fight of the night, Matt Brown versus Bryan Barberena at 170 pounds. So even though Matt Brown may or may not have been robbed in this split decision loss, he got 50K bonus, so there's nothing to cry about in that situation. Curtis Blaydes and Chris Gutierrez, El Guapo, they take home 50K bonuses for performance of the night. Yet a spinning back fist victory by Chris Gutierrez, who I do believe notched. He's like, one of like 12 fighters who have notched that in UFC history. Amazing right there. Obviously, Curtis Blaydes, this is his 3rd fight that he has won without securing a single takedown in the UFC. Very impressive. 4 finishes in 12 bouts, 2 knockouts, 2 submissions, 5 upsets. Couple that we probably should have seen coming, but didn't necessarily. Marc Diakiese is our primary case right there. This is a chiseled UFC veteran, fought the UFC newcomer, the prospect, Slava Claus, and dominated the man with wrestling. We'll talk about that in 1 second. Sara McMann, respect your elders, folks. This is all I got to say. A silver Olympic wrestler, Sara McMann. Need I say more? Kai Kara-France and Marc Diakiese and Matheus Nicolau. Those are our upsets on the night. But the big important thing, AJ, before we talk about it, is that, folks, if you're watching, I think you can see the scoreboard is tied up there on the bottom. 40-20 apiece for me and my man AJ. We are at 66.67% combined, or not combined, but respective, right? The big key right here, AJ, is you took some shots and you missed, man. I got to respect it, though, because you got to risk it to get the biscuit. I went 4-2 on the night, and you went 2-4. Now, I do want to just throw out there, we did have the Ilir Latifi versus Alexia Oleinik fight. That one got scrapped at the last second. Latifi withdrew to medical reasons or whatever the case may be. So we threw the Neil Magny and Max Griffin bout that got moved up to the main card. We both picked for Magny. We both won. Another very close fight right there, brother. So the lead has vanished for you, my man, but it is a long year, and at this point, man, this is 0-0. This is not 40-20 in my mind. This is 0-0. We're back at our starting point, and that's good for me. It's really good for you. At the end of the day, it's good for both of us because we're both in a really good spot. But if we had to take a look back into last year, AJ, at this point, I don't think either of us had as good of a record as 40-20 at this point in the year. I don't remember exactly, but would you agree with me there?
Oh, I don't remember the exact numbers, Derick, but I'd 100% agree with you, man. I definitely think per the year range, I think the guesses are a little bit more beneficial in the yeses than the nos.
Yeah, there you go, brother. I'm going to ask you real fast. Just pull your mic up just a little bit closer, brother. We want to hear the golden voice that you got right there. But all right, man, without any further ado, AJ, you ready to get into some main card, yeah?
Let's get it.
Let's get it, folks.
Have you seen that replay, buddy? Your head was bouncing around like a pinball machine.
Time for some main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ. So once again, here we are, AJ. Curtis Blaydes. This is a man who everybody in the world, Chris Daukaus included, fans included, coaches included, said, all right, when's the shot coming? Michael Bisping, I'm so surprised the man hasn't taken a shot. It's been 2 minutes and 30 seconds. He's just sitting there boxing with him. In Curtis Blaydes' mind, he said, I was out here to make a statement, to prove a point. I beat Chris Daukaus. Now I want Stipe Miocic or I want Cyril Gane. Either one of those dudes, if I win, gets me to a title shot. And I agree with him. However, how convincing is it to say, all right, I'm going to fight Francis Ngannou for the 3rd time? You've been knocked out twice by Francis Ngannou prior to that. Does he get a 3rd fight? If he does win, do we get such thing as a challenger fatigue, I guess you should say. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, is Caitlin Chikagan going to get like another shot at Valentina? Like, where are we at with this, man? First off, tell me how impressive of a performance it was. And then, what do you think about that?
Derick, it was so impressive of a win that it hurt as a Daukaus fan, brother.
Yeah.
That was one of those ones where you saw him, the coaches come out, they tell him, jab, throw a jab, and then throw one to the body. The whole time I'm thinking, I was like, this is going to work. And then like, you see Daukaus just eat a right hand to the mouth, goes down. It was a very tough one to win, or a tough loss, for Daukaus. But Curtis Blaydes, man, looked good. Will he get the next title shot? Maybe with a couple more knockouts. If he knocks out Stipe and then he goes in, or maybe if he knocks out Gane, I think with the knockout, especially a first round knockout on either of those fighters, then we're in the talk. But I think right now, do we want to see the Curtis Blaydes versus Gane, versus the champ?
Ngannou, brother.
Ngannou. Do we want to see Blaydes versus Ngannou? I don't really know, man, especially with how the injury length time that we're going to see Ngannou out. This whole thing's a shakeup, man. I'm down to see it. I'm down to see the fight again. But if with a knockout first, I think that entices the fans a little bit more, entices the matchmakers just a little bit more. What do you think? How is Blaydes going to be able to get that title shot? Because I agree, it's not the most interesting draw. It's hard to make a story out of as well.
I agree with that last part that you said. It's hard to make a story out of if we go back to this situation again. I will say one of the things that the commentary team mentioned was that, is Curtis Blaydes trying to move away from the wrestling a little bit? Is he trying to go more strike-oriented, more stand-up oriented? And while I don't think that's the case, I think maybe for this fight he was able to get away with it. I don't think it's going to be going away from the thing that got you to the dance. And we say it time and time again, you cannot do that. You must stick to the things that got you to the dance, because at the end of the day, those are the things that are going to win you the championship right there. So I don't know, man. I do think if we see a third time against Francis Ngannou, let's not forget what Francis Ngannou just did to Cyril Gane, right? Dude could wrestle a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that he's an all-star D1 wrestler, but he could wrestle a little bit, might be able to hold his own there. And the worst thing that you want in this situation is get knocked out by the dude who is now the champ, who was knocked you out 2 other times, a third time. Because at that point, are you not relegated to obscurity? There is no, all right, you knocked me out 3 times, but the 4th time, brother, I got you. I just don't necessarily see that happening. So I think it needs to line up. I think if Curtis Blaydes was really smart, he might just kind of say, all right, I still got a lot of time left in this game. Let me just kind of wait it out. Maybe Ngannou doesn't want to stick around in the promotion. Maybe we might get a new champion. And if we do get that new champion, that's my time to come in and storm in and get the belt. Maybe they set up another interim belt. I don't know. But I do think, though, at the end of the day, man, he can be the world's greatest gatekeeper, or he could be a champion. It all depends on whether Francis Ngannou is the champion of the heavyweight division or not. Now, AJ, real quick, I just wanted to ask you on the other side of this. I wanted to go back to the Chris Daukaus situation. You lose 2 main events back-to-back via knockout. Now, this is the heavyweights, right? This is not something that is like, oh, my God, you got knocked out. That's what happened. That's heavyweight power. One shot, you slip, that's game over, right? Do you think that Curtis Blaydes has any validity when he talks about maybe you should drop down to 205, brother? Maybe you're not a real true heavyweight, because he has real speed advantages at heavyweight. Power, not so much. You know what I mean? He has power, but everyone has power at heavyweight. But it's really the speed and the agility that gets it done for him. Do you think he should move down to 205, or do you think he does have a lasting future in the heavyweight division?
Man, I think he has a lasting future in the heavyweight division. Because, correct me, his little brother fights at 170 or 185?
185 pounds.
Okay, so he still has that divisional gap between them. So that way he's never, not in the same class. Dropping down to 205, he keeps the benefit. He's still a very fast heavyweight, so he's losing that aspect to his game. Once you drop down a weight class, that next division, they're going to be just as fast, if not faster than you, when you were faster than everyone else at heavyweight. As well as he keeps a little bit of the speed. I think it's a bad call. I think it's a bad call jumping forward, or at least jumping down, if he's able to stay at heavyweight. We see the new type of heavyweight that's coming in, but they got fast hands, they got fast feet, so I think he can get a little bit more things going. I can see why, though. I can see why Curtis Blaydes say that, because these dudes that they're fighting, they're, they're like 280, they're cutting they're cutting weight to get to 265.
Absolutely.
That's a 40-pound gap for Daukaus. I can see why, but I still think it's a bad call. Maybe a couple more, and then he drops down. What do you think?
Well, I'll say this. When you lose to the respective number 3 and number 4 contenders in the baddest division in the planet, the heavyweights, you got nothing to hang your hat on, my man. Let's stick around for a little bit, stick in the middle of the pack, and fight some of the dudes who aren't the top of the division, get a little more experience up, and then get back at it, and we'll see what happens. Let's not forget, Curtis Blaydes, like I said, he dropped a couple before he went on this massive run, right? 2 to Ngannou and 1 to Derek Lewis, man. So, obviously, Blaydes is on his way back up to the hiatus and all that good stuff. We'll see what happens. Huge win by Curtis Blaydes, and I do expect him to be fighting legitimately some of the top contenders in the division besides Francis Ngannou for the next fight. We'll see what happens, though. Now, AJ, I don't want to be too frank about this, but I do believe, like I said in the intro, we have a new contender, a real contender who has solidified themselves in the title picture of the women's flyweight division. Alexa Grasso is now 3-0 since moving up. She was 3-3 at strawweight. She is now 6-3 in the UFC, 3-0 at flyweight. Or she was 3-3 at strawweight. I don't know if I said flyweight or strawweight, but either way, man. Fighter out of Mexico. We haven't had one of these who are really putting on in quite some time. We have her and Irene Aldana. Those are the only two we got. One's a bantamweight, one's a flyweight. And Joanne Wood fighting out of, Extreme Couture out here in Vegas, but representing the proud state or proud country of Scotland. Brother, it's looking rough for her these days, my man. Joanne Wood now drops to 15-8. He got choked out in 2 straight fights. But she was having a little bit of success, man. That's the weird thing about the situation is she looked like the bigger fighter. I'm not going to lie to you, AJ. Alexa Grasso actually looked a little outsized when I was watching that matchup. And right now, I got the main card playing back on the TV. The fight is on right now. And you see Joanne Wood, by overcommitting, put herself in a position to give up her back. Next thing you know, you get choked out. Should it be that easy to get you with a rear naked choke once your back is exposed? Probably not, right? Maybe you should be working on the jiu-jitsu chops a little bit more. But what was more impressive, Alexa Grasso's win or Joanne Wood's kind of fall from grace? Like, not necessarily impressive, but which one is more like telling right now? What do you think?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Man, it's weird because we all expected Wood to be the one that better on the ground, more well-rounded fighter, if you will. I didn't expect the Grasso submission to come at all. I was expecting Grasso to piece her up in the hands. And even with going back to what you were saying, Derick, I had it the same. I thought Wood was going to be the bigger of the fighter. She looked like to be the bigger fighter, but she didn't have that dominating, imposing will. And in fact, every time that I thought Wood was going to come in, Joanne Wood was going to come in and start kind of taking over the fight, she would get going, and then out of nowhere, Grasso would sort of have her best. She was showing up, she was putting it on. Should it be that easy? No, definitely not that easy to take a rear naked choke. But to me, I think what's more telling is the Joanne Wood not being able to capitalize on her moments. She would have a little bit of moments, kind of get the motion kind of going in her favor a little bit, and then lose that momentum and kind of get things turned around on her. So I don't know what she needs to do to be able to get back on track per se, but I think that's a little bit more telling to the story because it shouldn't be that easy for a Mexican striker that we all know has amazing hands, to be able to get there and put a submission on you, lock it up that quick, and get out of there, in the first round? Yeah, it shouldn't be that easy for somebody who was as talented as Joanne Wood is. She's a very talented fighter, just hasn't put the things together, man.
But her striking, her Muay Thai is still incredible, man. When she was able to grab Grasso, get her in the clinch, throw those knees and elbows up, like I said, Grasso, she was on the back foot. She was pushed against the fence the whole time. It was her overcommitment that led to her demise in what was a mixed martial arts fight, not, a boxing match. It was just a straight up mixed martial arts fight. I feel a little rough right in this spot because Joanne Wood is also a plus 180 underdog in this spot, man. So it's like they pretty much thought Grasso was going to get the job done, and then Grasso gets the job done in a way that nobody saw it coming. I imagine Joanne Wood is going to be a big underdog in whoever her next matchup is against, but I guess right now the time is to talk about Alexa Grasso instead of Joanne Wood. So what is the future for Alexa Grasso, AJ? You beat number 7, right? You're firmly in that kind of title picture. Right now we have Taila Santos versus Valentina Shevchenko next. But the big question really comes down to, is Alexa Grasso ready? Do you think that she can fight Valentina Shevchenko right now and have any bit of success? Because even though Alexa Grasso is a very technical and skillful boxer, Valentina Shevchenko is a much better mixed martial artist in general in terms of all of the skill sets, the Muay Thai. Her boxing is crispy, right? When it gets down to the ground, she can control her opponents like it's nobody's business. Any way that you present a flaw or an opening, Valentina Shevchenko can exploit. So right now, are we really just meddling with the middle of the pack of the flyweight division. Y'all just keep fighting amongst each other to establish a pecking order, and then whichever one of you are lucky enough to get called on by Valentina Shevchenko or Dana White or McMahon or whoever the matchmaker is, then gets to fight the champ. Or should we have any concern for Valentina Shevchenko? Like, at this point, I still don't see anybody who is a real threat to her. Taila Santos, maybe a little bit, but come on, we've seen tougher opposition as of late. So what do you think?
Yeah, I was going to say, unless Taila Santos lands a crazy shot that we didn't see coming, almost how, I forget the fighter, but the one where Valentina lost like the first round to wrestling.
That was Jennifer Maia.
Was it Jennifer Maia?
Yeah.
How Jennifer Maia kind of took that first round, everyone was so shocked. If Taila Santos is able to get a crazy crack on the champ, I don't see anyone beating the Bullet right now, man. She's just too damn good. Alexa Grasso, as good as she, we know she is in her hands, came out with the submission, looks good there. I still think there's levels to this game, brother, and the Bullet is just too damn dominant. Unless we see something crazy out of Santos, which could possibly happen, but time will tell.
No, I agree with you. The other big thing to note is that Alexa Grasso, I believe this is her first finish since like 2014, man. You know, she's not a big finisher. So how are you going to get that title shot if you're not the big finisher? At least Taila Santos, in her short UFC career, she's finishing people left and right. Alexa Grasso, on the other hand, man, she's very, like I said, technical, likes clean maneuvers, clean techniques, but sometimes you got to risk it to get the biscuit, and you can't walk through the rain without getting a little wet. You know, shout out to Mike Bisping right there, man. So huge win by Alexa Grasso. We will see where we go with the Joanne Wood. Would you count her out right now, though? My last statement on this. Do you count out a Joanne Wood at this stage of her career where she's in the later part of her 30s? You know, she's lost a couple. Her last 10 fights haven't been that incredible. Do you count her out, man, or do you think that she has another push still in her, man? Ever since, and that's the crazy thing, ever since changing her last name to Wood, man, we've seen a little bit of a downfall in her career. So I don't know what to make of that, but what do you think?
Seen a little bit of a down, too. She's on a 3-fight losing streak, but look at it, Eric. The people she's lost to, Katlyn Chookagian, Jennifer Maia, Lauren Murphy, Taila Santos, Alexa Grasso. Those are all incredibly top-tier opponents. The Lauren Murphy, not so. That's probably the lowest one. But Katlyn Chookagian, Jennifer Maia too as well. There's kind of a couple. But either way, she's still losing to the top of the people. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't count her out necessarily. Yeah. But it's right there. 3-fight losing streak doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good. And let's put a little respect on Lauren Murphy's name, right? She didn't have much success against the champ, right? But against the rest of the field, I mean, you know, she handles her business. Jennifer Maia, on the other hand, I mean, that's probably the lowest on the pecking order right now, especially given her last loss. Either way, it goes to show that Joanne Wood is a very talented fighter, but is she upper echelon in her own division right now? Not right now. We'll see what happens. Wish nothing but the best for Joanne Wood. Love that she's a massive Raiders fan. You got to love it, but this is Alexa Grasso's time. And I'm glad to see that we have a fighter out of Mexico who's really putting it on, man. Like, you know, Viva la Raza right there. You know, it's a beautiful thing to see. All right, AJ, we can move on to the next one. But before we do that, folks, I want to give you a very quick reminder. Drop a like, subscribe, rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, 5 stars on Spotify. But the biggest thing that you can do for us right now is you can go hit up the YouTube channel, type in Free Thinkers Club, type in Bloody Water Podcast, and just like, subscribe, and share our videos. Right now, we're almost at 355 subscribers. We already know. You guys know what to do. If you like it, subscribe it. We ain't got to sit here and sell you on it. Really, what we're showing right now is 40 and 20 a pop. That means we are what? 80 and 40 combined for both of us throughout the year so far. This is on all the main card picks. So if you have been rocking with us, folks, you are well over 500. It's not even a discussion to be had right now. So like it, subscribe it, all the good stuff. We appreciate you. And lastly, use code BWP10 for 10% off all merch at checkout. You can get a dope hoodie right here. I know it is summertime coming along, so we got t-shirts, we got lots of fun designs and all that good stuff. Check out our shop, bloodywaterpodcast.com. Hit up the merch tab and get your merch. You know what time it is, folks. Without any further ado, AJ, quick question to you. Robbery report, justified, hometown robbery. I mean, did somebody roll up with the thing on him and say, put your hands up, put it all in the bag? I don't know what happened right there. Takedowns count for something. I don't know if they got counted in this matchup, but Matt Brown drops a very, very close split decision to Bryan Bam Barberena. And this is two blue-collar workers. You love both of these dudes. You don't want to see either dude lose, but I do have something that I didn't enjoy seeing after the fight, AJ, and that's Matt Brown posting, I think it was on Instagram or Twitter or something, but he basically said more or less, I thought I won rounds 1 and 2. I let up rounds 3. I shouldn't have done that. Mistake happened. Excuse, AJ? I mean, what do we make of this? This is an OG veteran. This is the immortal. This is one of the baddest men on the planet to do it. And normally you don't hear excuses out of the man. So letting up in round 3, you would think a veteran of his stature wouldn't do something of that nature. But to me, it looked like slowing down more than letting up. What do you think?
I thought it was more of a gassing out, Derick. There's some moments in sports I feel like you learn one time. And it's that moment for me. I know back in the day, it was a middle school track race event. I was out in the lead, 100-yard dash, sprinting it, getting my thing on. I'm in the lead. I let up a little. One of the homies passes right by me, zooms right by me, gets the win. He goes on. I lose that tournament. Always and forever, I will think you run past, you run a couple extra steps, sprint through that damn finish line and don't stop or else somebody's going to take it from you. Matt Brown should know that by now, man. He should know better than to be able to say, all right, I'm going to take a couple off. Because I agree with him. I thought he won rounds 1 and 2. It was a little disheartening to see the decision go the other way, especially in the hometown. But you said it before, Derick, we're not in the amateurs anymore. We're not in the regionals. Hometown don't mean nothing when you let up on the gas. I was a little more upset for the loss until I heard that statement. In that case, I kind of feel almost a little more justified for Bryan Barberena. You're going to take a little bit of time off or a little bit of pressure off. And the other guy, that's him winning. I don't know, man. What do you think?
Well, you can't let your foot off the gas. But I do think it comes down to the thing that we mentioned off air. So we know that Matt Brown wins round 1, right? Pretty clear. Wins round 1. Barberena wins round 3. The big question is the turning point, the middle part of the round in round 2, because it just depends on what you're looking for, how you view it as a judge, even if you're a armchair judge, whatever you want to call it. Matt Brown clearly wins the first half of the second round, takes down Bryan Barberena, has a bunch of control time. And we're looking at control time in total, 5 minutes of control time for Matt Brown throughout the fight, only 57 seconds for Bryan Barberena. So 5 minutes to 1 minute, right? Now, the second half of the second round, Matt Brown starts to slow down a little. Bryan Barberena lands some big shots on him, and the last closing seconds, 5-10 seconds left in the round, he's throwing some big shots on him. You know what I mean? It's some big ones. But then again, Matt Brown did have 5 takedowns in the fight, so it just really depends on what you're looking at. That second round is the big turning point right there. AJ, we've seen more and more of the inconsistent judging. We thought we were kind of on for a little bit. We were like, okay, now they are showing the takedowns mean something, or now they're showing, yeah, you could take them down, but you need control time. Now, though, that we're going Columbus, we're going London, we're going Vegas, we're going to these different places with these different commissions, I'm seeing sporadic judging, different things here, different things there. So it's kind of hard to get a read on what do I need to do to win the fight. What are your thoughts on that?
Hey, Derick, my thoughts are, it sounds like it's back to the shenanigans of the judging, man. You just can't leave it to the judges at all, regardless anymore, because you're right. It does really depend on where that second round comes into play. And the crazy thing is per fight, per round, it seems like all things can change. So it's rough. Yeah, I do. This one, I had 2-1 for Matt Brown. I definitely think he would, but I agree with what you're saying. Right in that middle round, how did it go? Because Bryan Barberena did bloody up Matt Brown. He was landing some big elbows, dropped some big bombs. You can see the blood coming. So does that go more to the judges? I don't know. I guess I wish there was a little more transparency in that whole thing so we could understand a little bit better, but that's the game right there, I guess.
That's the fight game, AJ. What does it mean to you that Bryan Barberena outstruck Matt Brown 186 total strikes to 95? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, that seems about right. 186. That gap, once that pressure started going, and I guarantee we look at a graph, that striking output of Matt Brown is super high in the beginning and then starts really dropping where the opposite happens for Barberena.
Do you think that this is an age-related situation for Matt Brown? I did note in the pre-show, and I got to take it back now. I said Matt Brown was chinny. Let's watch out for the knockout for Bryan Barberena. But showed an outstanding chin. He bit down on his mouthpiece, and he kept it going rounds 1 through round 3, even though he did slow down. It seemed more than anything to me probably an age thing, man. You're just getting up there in age. Gas tank isn't what it used to be. This is a 40-plus-year-old man, after all. You're fighting a young, spry, 32-year-old Bryan Barberena who works on the farm all day. So what do you think? Do you think it's an age thing, or do you think that, Matt Brown, I don't know. What do you make of it?
Yeah, no, I think this has to be an age thing, especially with the comment he made where he said, I took my foot off the gas. He should know better. So I think this is more of an excuse and him being a little tired in there, unfortunately.
No, I'm with you, brother. So Bryan Barberena, huge win. I cannot understate this. He is 17-8 in his MMA career, 8-6 in the UFC. He was hovering around 500 for quite some time, 8-6 now. But this was the last fight on Bryan Barberena's contract. He did note that he tried to negotiate a little bit. The UFC wasn't really trying to have it. It has been a recurring theme recently that the UFC is letting fighters fight out their contract and then deciding what they want to do with them. But he says, UFC, I want to talk. Dana White hit me up. Let's do this. If you don't want to do this, I will hang up my gloves and I will go work on the farm because I love that just as much as I love fighting. But but there's nobody else that I would want to fight with except the UFC. Do we see Bryan Barberena step into the octagon again, or is this over for Bam Bam Barberena?
Man, I hope so. I'm a big fan of the Bam Bam Barberena, brother, but at the same point, where does he go in the 170-pound division? He's not going to be fighting for titles anytime soon. Is he the crowd drawing money bringer that we could see, like a Hazmat being or somebody else in that division? I don't know, man. And there's a lot of cuts coming in. I'm almost willing to bet that Bryan Barberena, this is the last time, unfortunately, because I'm a big fan. I'm willing to bet that I think this is the last time we'll see him in the cage. I don't think they're going to renew his contract. He's just not too much of a crowd bringer, unfortunately, even though, like I said, I'm a huge fan. I think he's a great fighter. But
I think he's a very skillful fighter, very talented fighter, and I do think they will be bringing him back. So I guess we got the one for up, one for down. We will see what happens, but best of luck to Bryan Barberena. This is also the thing we got to consider. Matt Brown, he says he wants another 8-fight contract so he can fight till he's 45. Got to see what'll happen next for our boy, the Immortal. You know what I'm saying? But big win by Bryan Barberena. You got to celebrate it. You know what time it is. Now, for the match that had the highest implications of any match on this card, Kai Kara-France. Did he live up to the nickname Don't Blink in this one? Almost, brother. He was putting it on Askarov, man. Piecing the man up time and time again. This was a big, long layoff for Askar Askarov, who had to deal with a wrist surgery after his last fight. He missed weight after beating Joseph Benavidez in his last one, man. He has all these issues coming in, but either way, he was winning until he wasn't, bro. The gas tank seemed to be a little bit of an issue towards the latter half of the fight, but Kai Kara-France, I apologize because he has one of the tongue twister names in the UFC's flyweight division. The thing that you got to love about him is the hand speed, AJ. Hand speed is the only thing I could think about when I talk about Kara-France, because this dude's striking is impeccable coming out of City Kickboxing. Where are the other flyweights from City Kickboxing? He's like the only one, man, and he's putting them on the map in terms of the small man division to be able to have incredible balance, incredible takedown defense. When I'm looking at it right now, Askar Askarov was 2 for 14 in his takedown attempts, brother. That is pretty legit when you're talking about an Askarov who takes everybody down and he's on them like white on rice, brother. It's game over once he gets you to the ground. Not for Kai Kara-France. He outstruck Askarov 64-37, so it was a low volume type of fight, but it was exciting nonetheless. What did you make of this fight? This was a huge win by Kai Kara-France, but does a win over Askar Askarov automatically put you into that title contention next up after Figgy versus Moreno 4, or does he have a little bit more work to do?
No, I think it puts you up there. I think if not, then maybe like a contender for Pantoja fight. We might see something like that. We might see some funkiness in there because it wasn't the most dominating win by Kara-France. Even though it was a very impressive win, it wasn't the most dominating. We didn't see the knockout. It was more of a Askarov trying, and I guarantee those first 2 takedowns, those were in the first round, maybe the second round. Maybe you got one in the second round, but definitely early on in the fight, and then started losing that gas tank, kind of started dumping out. Not necessarily being as dominating of a fighter as Askarov usually is. So that's where we were able to see Kara-France kind of defend a little bit more, use his hand speed because he does have amazingly fast hands, but wasn't able to actually find the knockout. So does that sign him up right away to be number 3 where you're able to get that shot after the Figgy Moreno squared off? I can see the argument why, but it almost feels like maybe it's because I'm being a pessimist tonight, but maybe it's because, or I'm thinking it's going to go a little bit more towards the fact we're going to see a Pantoja, we're going to see a scrap going that way, and then we see somebody jump into it if they're able to get a more impressive win. I don't know. What do you think, Derek? Do you see Pantoja in the light, or is he signed up to fight next for the champ?
I think you got to give Pantoja something, right? I don't think that what Kai Kara-France did was definitive enough to necessarily solidify. Like, there's no questions asked. You are next for the title. And the reason why is because Askar Askarov, like I said, there's been a little bit of a layoff, man. He's number 2 in the division, yes, but he hasn't been fighting as active as some of the other fighters. So how big is this win necessarily, especially given the case that there are a lot of people who are making the case that say Askar Askarov won round 1 and rounds 3 of this fight. Now, I don't agree. I'm not in that camp. I do think that the right man got his hand raised in this fight. But what would your rebuttal be, AJ, to somebody that does say rounds 1 and 3 went to Askar Askarov and Kai Kara-France kind of got a gimme in this one?
Yeah, I don't see it that way. I don't see Askarov winning round 3 at all. I think he tired out. And when you tire out, you take your foot off the gas pedal, and your other guy is able to stop what you're doing when everybody knows that you're the best at this certain aspect, whether it's hands or the feet, and the other guy is able to outplay you in your own field. I don't think it's a win. I don't see it at all. It's usually not a win. And in this case, I agree with the judges. It was not a win for Askarov either.
Yep. So let me just pull it up real fast, brother. So it appears the case that when I look at MMA decisions, because I was a little interested, just wanted to see where we're at with this, the majority of the people give it to Kara France, 29-28, no problem. I will say there are 4 people who do say that Askarov got the job done, but it was an overwhelming majority in favor of Kara France. Probably, if I have to take a guess, this is like 15-20 to like 4, right? So overwhelming in favor of Kara France. You'd love to see that. I just want to see a little consensus from time to time because you know what I mean, judges, right? You can't leave it up to them, but at the end of the day, I would have liked to see it a little more convincing, but a lot of people didn't think that Askarov could win, or that Kara France could win against Askarov in the first place. So this is a big win for Don't Blink Kara France, but I do imagine he would have to fight a Pantoja. He'd have to fight. Let's take a look real quick, AJ. I know this isn't the rankings review right here, but let's take a quick look at the flyweight division and see who are contenders in that top 5. So you got Brandon Moreno at 1, Askar Askarov 2, Alexandre Pantoja 3, Alex Perez at 4, Brandon Royval at 4. They're kind of tied at 4 in the newest UFC drop right there, and then Kara France at 6. So I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, that Askar Askarov was supposed to fight Alex Perez or something like that, and then the bout, got canceled because he had to go get wrist surgery and all that good stuff. So either an Alex Perez or an Alexandre Pantoja, I do think you're gonna have to fight one more to really solidify it. But then again, AJ, Davison Figueiredo, he's trying to play mind games with Assassin Baby and say, hey, man, listen, that Kiwi, Kara France, he gets the next shot, and we'll see what happens. Maybe you'll get a shot after him, depending after, I demolish the man. But the Deuce de Guerra, he's talking big right now, man. So hopefully he can back it up when he fights Moreno for the 4th time. We will see what happens. Huge win by Kara France, putting City Kickboxing kind of back on the map, man, because it's been a little bit of a slump for them as of late. But either way, that's neither here nor there. We have big news to talk about, though, AJ. The big news right here, and I don't know if you know this, they've been talking about it a little bit, but this is more impressive than one may imagine. Neil Magny, the Haitian sensation, he ties Georges St. Pierre's welterweight win record in the UFC. So he's tied for number 1 for most wins in UFC welterweight divisional history at 19, brother. That's a lot of wins right there for a dude who is at the back end of the top 10. Now, a lot of people, once again right here, are kind of arguing, Max Griffin might have won this fight, right? I don't agree with that situation neither, but Max Griffin thought he won round 1 and round 2 of the fight. Neil Magny, as always, comes on late, nonstop pressure, constant pressure, and then calls out Khamzat Chimaev saying, Khamzat, I want you, let's get it. I've been trying to get this fight for over a year. Now, my question to you is, before we talk about this Max Griffin situation, AJ, how big of a star is Chimaev right now, given that a dude who has 19 wins in the UFC, calling out a dude who has like 2 wins in the UFC, 3 wins in the UFC? Like, he's calling Chimaev out. It should be the other way around, brother. This is not supposed to work this way. So Chimaev is clearly an established boogeyman in the division right now. And when you have OG veterans who are saying, I want to fight you, instead of calling up upper opponents so I can get closer to the title, I want to fight Chimaev. How big of a star is this dude? Is he the next thing? Because right now, that's what solidified it for me. All this hype, he's a big question mark. This solidified it for me right here. What do you think?
Man, that shows so much respect from the locker room. The fact that you have Neil Magny has the same, or a better record than one of the GOATs, arguably the GOAT, especially in his own division. You have a record better than him, more win streak or more wins, in your entire career. Yeah, and then you're calling out somebody else who has, I think it's 4 fights total in the UFC. It's absolutely insane. Speaks massive levels to how big of a star Khamzat is, and kind of how scary he is to the rest of the division, man. A lot of people are kind of willing to take that fight to kind of ride the coattails, if you will. Yeah, crazy to see, man, because, I mean, it also speaks levels to how impressive and good a fighter Neil Magny is, but at the same time, not that respected, like not that well known. People don't pay to watch Neil Magny fight, even though they should. He's very impressive, very dominating fighter. And in that 3rd round, came on, dude, tore it up. I agree. The first 2 were a little closer. I had it going to Magny the entire time. I could see where the Griffin people come in and say he might have won round 1, round 2. Neil Magny definitely took over the fight in round 3. But for him to even have the thought to call out somebody who's under him, who's still going to be fighting here soon, who hasn't really put in the time and effort into the UFC, instead of calling out the champ or somebody like that, speaks absolute levels to the fact of how big of a star Chimaev is, man. Kind of crazy.
I agree. Now, when it comes down to this situation between Max Griffin and Neil Magny right here, we said Max Griffin, if there's anyone that's ready to upset Neil Magny, it's Max Griffin. He's a great fighter, nonstop pace, never gets tired, all that good stuff. I think he got tired in this fight, bro. This was the story of the night for all of these fights. Everyone comes round 2 and round 3, get a little bit gassed. But what was more telling to me was that Neil Magny said the game plan was to come in and wrestle. I was like, oh, that's not, you just got destroyed in the wrestling by Michael Chiesa a couple fights ago. Maybe you learned a thing or two. 1 for 9 in takedown attempts on Max Griffin. He was able to get the takedown a little bit late, try to work it like that, but he did outstrike Griffin 104-75. Was outstruck in terms of significant strikes, 67-54 right there, man. So this was just a valiant effort on both hands. No performance of the night bonus. It was a fun fight back and forth, but I think Max Griffin has nothing to hang his hat on. He did mention something on Instagram, though, AJ, that Dana White gave him his win bonus, even though he lost. I don't know if there's any validity to that, given that he just kind of put it out there. But he thinks that he won round 1 and 2. And I wanted to kind of put out here, right here, AJ, that for folks who are watching right here, I just have MMA decisions up once again. Eric Colon and Sal D'Amato, they both gave Neil Magny rounds 2 and rounds 3 to win the fight. Now, Todd Schwartz gave Neil Magny only round 3. He gave Griffin rounds 1 and rounds 2. Now, the overwhelming majority gave it to Magny. Only 3 people out of maybe 15, 18 people picked Max Griffin to win the fight. But that is kind of telling because, like I said, Max Griffin dropped Neil Magny early in that first round. So clearly that first round does go to him, but it really comes down to that rounds 2 and round 3. Who won the fight? I don't know, man. You can't leave it up to the judges. This was kind of a decision-filled card overall on the night. But I do think give this, best of 5. Who wins? Neil Magny or Max Griffin in a series of 5 fights?
Oh, I'd say Magny by 1. I think it's going even into the 4th, and then he gets him again just one other time. But either way, it's always close.
Yeah.
And as far as the win bonus, I think according to Uncle Chael, this is very common for Dana White. Dana White does this all the time. It's just kind of a thing. You get your show, you get your pay. Even if you lose, you might see a check roll in from Uncle Dana. It's kind of what he does. So I don't know if that necessarily speaks to it, but I do think this was a lot closer to a fight. And if it happens 5 times, we're even going into the 5th.
Yeah, I will say that I think what Uncle Dana respects is you're putting on a great show, right? You came in, you fought your ass off. Here's a little bit of bread. That's why Connor walked out. Thanks for the cheese, Dana. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, that's why you got to respect it. But, yeah, he was giving out 50K bonuses like it was candy at UFC London. Didn't quite see the same thing happen on the Columbus card. But either way, this was a big win for Neil Magny. I think this is one of the more underwhelming wins in his career, to be honest. You're not fighting a ranked dude. I don't know how this fight came together. I don't know how Max Griffin got a number 9 ranked opponent. He was ranked at number 35 when I made the graphics for all of this stuff, so we will see what happens. But either way, this was a big win, and this was a great opportunity for Max Payne Griffin. I would like to see him again back in the near future because he's got the juice, man. He's got the juice. Not against Neil Magny, but the man got the juice. But this is the biggest upset on the card. Next to the Sara McMann fight right here, this is one of those, y'all must have forgot, right? And I did say, so growing up, AJ, what kind of watching Marc Diakiese? He hasn't had the longest career in the UFC, but he's 6-5 now in his UFC tenure. He's been fighting for a little bit. This was one of my favorite fighters. This was supposed to be the next big thing. He was hailed as that next big fighter who was like, oh, this dude's scary, watch out for him. And then he started losing, dropping, you're not really finishing the way you're supposed to. But then you get a smash spot. But we need to learn from our mistakes here, AJ. And this is something I wanted to do live on the air while we're recording this right now. We made a mistake, both of us respectively, by buying into the hype that is Viacheslav Borshchev. Now, was he very impressive against Dakota Bush? Yes. Is Dakota Bush on the same caliber as a Marc Diakiese? Not by a long shot, but because it's the out of sight, out of mind of Marc Diakiese, the number 46 next to the name of Marc Diakiese, that we say, oh, this dude's probably washed up a little bit. You know what I mean? This is a perfect spot for Borshchev to come in and get the upset. Except it wouldn't have been an upset because Borshchev was actually the favorite going into this fight, AJ. What do we need to do to avoid this mistake from happening again? Because I think that in our right mind, hindsight's 2020. But if we would have looked at this maybe from a different perspective, a different lens, walked away and then came back, maybe we would have had a different opinion. But I messed up, you messed up, and we cost ourselves on the scoreboard for that reason. Marc Diakiese, huge upset win, wrestled the man to death. Notched 11 takedowns, which is a career high. Second best was 6, and that was years and years and years ago, brother. So what do you make of this whole entire situation, man?
Yeah, man. I think honestly, like on paper, this doesn't make a lot of sense. Like it feels like we must have forgotten. I definitely forgot about Marc Diakiese. You know what I'm saying? Like this is one of those ones where revisionist. I look back, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, the dude is an absolute savage for a very long time. Obviously, he's going to out-wrestle the dude who's just coming in, has amazing striking, amazing kickboxing, going into a wrestling camp, but only spent, 6, 7, 8 months at American Top or Team Alpha Male, excuse me. So he's not a wrestler. He doesn't have the chops of a wrestler. Of course, Diakiese's going to come in, put the veteran moves to him. I can see where we messed up, but I can also see where Borshchev comes in and he gets the hands on, man. He has the speed. He can come in and kind of do some things. But Marc Diakiese absolutely put that to nil. Marc Diakiese comes out, puts the thing on him, puts a backpack on him, controls, dominates the fight, man. It was very impressive for him. And it was really the ground game of Slava, of Borshchev failing, and Marc Diakiese just staying on top. Sure, the crowd was booing, and it was, quote unquote, a boring fight. But you got to do what you got to do, especially when a young gun's kind of try and come to take your spot. Yeah. You got to wrestle him. You got to do what you got to do, man.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. This was unexpected in the sense where this was expected, actually, in a weird way, because Borshchev, the one thing I did forget is that he does not have the greatest takedown defense in the world, man. Like, he just kind of accepts it, works from that bottom guard, gives up his back to be able to get up. He does that every time. And Marc Diakiese just says, like, you're going back on the mat every time. Mat return, keep you down, hold you down. 12 minutes of control time, 11 for 18 on takedown attempts. This was just a clinic by Diakiese. This was a dude in the gym that says, like, oh, new guy, you think you got some skills? All right, brother, let me just show you that if I want to, you're not doing anything against me. And that's what Borshchev learned the hard way on the biggest stages. But then you got to give the man some props because he had the cojones to say, I'll fight whoever. Marc Diakiese, old chiseled veteran, yeah, let's do it. I'm trying to fast track myself, get up there to a title. Big win by Marc Diakiese. We can't sleep on this dude, man. This was a plus 155 underdog at open right now. I don't know what the closing odds were, but I feel like I just missed out on a huge opportunity in terms of the wagering right there because we bought into the hype that was Viacheslav Borshchev. Same thing for some of the prelim fights that we're going to be talking about in the near future, but we didn't see much from Diakiese aside from improved wrestling. That's the only thing we saw. We knew he could get the takedowns. I just think he'd do it to this magnitude. Big win by Marc Diakiese, and yeah, got to see him in the octagon here again soon. So that is your main card, folks. But before we, move on to the rankings, review, fighter of the night, all that fun stuff, we got to hit a little prelim pour over, and I just wanted to talk about a couple different things. You know what I'm saying, AJ? So Sara McMann gets the win over Karol Rosa, right? And this was a clinic. Sara McMann looked like a 25-year-old fighter who says in the post-fight presser, oh, I never look at the odds, but she was the favorite over me. Oh, why? Is it because I'm old and because she's young? And she said it very, condescending, sarcastic. Yeah, she's 40 years old, but she's a silver medal Olympic wrestler. Once again, I said it in the pre-show. I said you cannot understate this. And her last loss, let's not forget, is to the current champion, Juliana Pena. She got choked out, which was crazy because nobody expected Juliana Pena to choke out Sara McMann. Like, that was just nuts. When it comes down to it, right? Yes, Karol Rosa outstrikes Sara McMann 92-73. But McMann, when she wanted the takedown, she got it. And when she wanted the control, she had it. There was no getting away from that. Her shots were incredible, jumping in on the double, just timing Rosa perfectly, saying that every time that you sit down on your punches, because you got the big power, I'm shooting in on the takedown. I'm going to make you think too much. Now you're second-guessing yourself, and next thing you know, you're on your back. So that was the story of the fight. Sara McMann had a dominating performance, 29-28 across the board over this 3-round fight. And my question to you is, man, what is the shelf life of a Sara McMann? You have a dominating performance against one of the dark horses of the division, a dark horse, someone who we say could be a future champion at women's bantamweight right there. So with this being said, man, yeah, what is the future looking like for Sara McMann? She's 41 years old, man. I mean, is this the Jan Blachowicz? Is this the Glover Teixeira approach that she's taken? The division is kind of up for grabs, given the Pena, Nunez fluidity right now. So what do you make of it?
That's what I was about to say, man. It's really up in grabs. There's a lot of tossing around. It's going to be, we've seen the queen dethroned, decrowned, whatever you want to say. And now things can start mixing up. We don't know. Maybe we see Holly Holm come back in the mix. Who knows? I think that's a pretty long shot right there as well. But Sara McMann, being 41 years old, in the women's division has a little bit longer of a shelf life than I would give somebody else, like an Andre Arlovsky or something. Don't get me wrong, this dude's been drinking out of the fountain of youth, but I feel like in the women's division they have a longer time because they're not taking as much power. They're not taking as much damage, and with the wrestling attributes that Sara McMann has, I think that it leads a little bit more towards a longer extended shelf life that she has. So we might see her fighting to 45. We could see her getting back up into that because right now Tapology has her as number 8. I could see her getting up into that 4 and then that 3, maybe challenging. Who knows who actually holding the title right there, but it could be interesting.
Yeah, Sara McMann, she is 7-6 in the UFC, 5-5 in her last 10. So it hasn't always been the prettiest of runs, but this was a big win right here. This was a huge win. This was basically Marc Diakiese, what he did to Borshchev. This is what that happened. So those are 2 huge upsets that I'm just like, God damn, how did I miss out on this? But a bigger one, AJ. Chris Gutierrez, El Guapo. He beat my man, Danaa, Batgerel. Listen, spinning back fist. The crazy part about it, AJ, is that Gutierrez threw the spinning back fist right in the last round before that. And Danaa, what did he do? He slipped out the way, took his back. Oh, Gutierrez is in trouble. But what does Gutierrez do? He says, I'm going to go back to it. Fuck it. You know what I mean? No risk, no reward right there. I'm going to go back to it. And what happens this time? I starch the man. You want to keep walking forward. That's what's going to happen. You got to mix up the forward and the backwards pressure. You cannot just be 100% forward at all times. So I will say Chris Gutierrez, he is 6-1-1 in the UFC. This is his second finish in the UFC. AJ, just give me a word or two. What do you make of the performance? What does this mean for Danaa Bakary?
Man, impressive performance from Gutierrez. I think the best thing I can say is try again. If it doesn't happen, you might catch him on the chin the third time. It ended up being the second for Gutierrez, and very impressive, man. When your opponent's that aggressive, it's almost like it's what you want to see. That's like a learning lesson for every fighter out there. Well, what do we see for Danaa Bakary? It also tells the tale of somebody who's has a lot to offer. If we can calm him down a little bit, get the mind focused a little bit, and kind of bounce back from this one. He's a young kid. I don't have his age in front of me, but I know he's still young in the game and has a lot of growing around to do. So we're not going to see the end of Danaa Bakary anytime soon. But we might see this fight happen one more time down the road. You know, would you see this one happen in 5, 6, 7 years down the road? And how old is Bakary? Did you look it up?
Bakary is 32, so I don't know about, he's not the spryest of chickens right there, but I will say I could see this fight happening again in the future, given that both of these dudes have a lot of success. The one thing I did want to note is that they noted in the commentary, Danaa's kind of fallen in love with the right hand ever since he's been getting a couple knockouts as of late. So you could tell he wasn't setting it up. He was just throwing the big right hand, power shots. So what happened? Gutierrez, he was mixing it up. He was setting things up, setting traps, lots of movement. But Danaa was winning until he wasn't. I will note that. It's not like he was getting his ass whooped. Like, he was winning until he wasn't. You run into a back fist, lights out. That's it for him. So, big win by El Guapo. Gotta love it right there. AJ, this was your sleeper. Aliaskhab, Khizriev. He says, oh, Denis T, right? I'm not even going to try. Denis T, come on, brother. We're going to get you on the ground. I'm going to do whatever I want to you. I'm going to choke you out in the second round. And I do believe that the odds for him to win by submission was like plus 600, plus 750, something like that. Should have been expected. Either way, the big thing that I want to take out of it is that this was utter domination by Aliaskhab Khizriev. And second, he says, I will smash all these dudes, but Dana, please, let me move down to 170. I'm a little too fat. I'm wearing too much weight. I'll move down to 70 and I'll fight. I did not know that the reason why he moved up, AJ, because we were speculating, right? I was like, is it like he can't make the weight or whatever? He said, actually, dudes just don't want to fight me. They haven't been able to find me a fight, so I just said, fuck it. I'll move up to 185 and I'll get after it, destroy this dude too. This dude right now is 14-0, undefeated in his MMA career. And like I said, he wants to move down to 170. So to see this dude potentially in a fight against Chimaev would be very interesting to me, given that the grappling, the kickboxing of both of these dudes seems pretty legit. But he looks sharp on the feet, brother. That's what's scary about him. The Black Wolf is going to be a problem. What do you make of it?
He looks sharp on the feet, but then also on the ground, man. Smash season can also tap you out and choke you out on the mat. Yeah, very impressive for Khizriev. I would like to see him at 170. He would be a little bit faster, a little bit more mobile. See how that goes. That's a lot of interesting matchups for him at 170. I like that, because I do think he was a little small for 185, but still very impressive fighter either way. Now cutting down, be interesting.
Well, brother, 12 of his 14 fights, took place at 170 pounds. He fought one time at lightweight. This was his sole middleweight fight. So big things to come by Aliaskhab Khizriev. You heard it here first, man. AJ made him a sleeper for a reason, and I do believe that they delivered. Let's not forget the Gutierrez, Danaa Bakary. Yeah, that was my sleeper too. So come on, we provided some knockouts for you. There was 4 finishes, and we got what? We got 2 of them. We got 2 of the 4 finishes in our sleepers. You're welcome, folks. I'll just say that. All right, AJ, last prelim that I want to talk about, there was a big win by Mateusz Nicolau over David Dvorak, The Undertaker. That was just a clinic. Beautiful. Luis Saldana got the big win over Bruno Souza. It was touch and go for a little bit, but Saldana got the win. Talented prospect. We kind of already saw this coming. The big win that I did not see coming was Manon Fiorot. Even though I said, I think that she could win the fight, she basically dominated, outstruck, outgrappled Jennifer Maia. It wasn't even close. And when it comes down to the numbers, 1 for 4 with Jennifer Maia on takedowns for Manon Fiorot, 2 for 4 for Manon Fiorot on Jennifer Maia. I will say Maia did become the first fighter in Manon Fiorot's career to take her down, but it didn't really mean anything, because I think that Fiorot, though she's not the best jiu-jitsu player in the world, I do think she got some judo on her or something, man. She was using some beautiful like sweeps, trips, all that fun stuff. She's a problem, brother. Her nickname is the Beast for a reason, and you beat number 4 in the division. You made it look easy. Brother, you fighting Caitlin Chikagian next? Who are we fighting here? We just talked about what a problem. Who else? I guess Sara McMann. That's bantamweight, so that's not flyweight. Did we talk about anyone else in the flyweight division? Maybe we were talking about this earlier. Either way, she's a problem, brother. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, Manon Fiorot is an absolute problem, but I think the biggest problem for Fiorot we're seeing right now is the fact that she's third on the prelims. Yeah. Nobody's wanting to watch her fight. I don't know why. She's an absolute terror. Long, rangy, dropping bombs, good on the ground, but not a crowd drawer. And I don't exactly know why, but I think that's Fiorot's biggest problem right now is she's not handling the entertainment side of the fighting aspect. When you're fighting, you're what, number... I forget what she actually is.
She was 13. She was 13.
Number 13. Still, number 13 in the world fighting Jennifer Maia. It's and you're third on the prelims. Not that telling because Jennifer Maia was, an upper echelon at one point in the career. So all that to say, Fiorot is still very, very dangerous, still very talented. Just not having the draw we're going to see. What does she need to do to get that? Maybe a knockout for Chikagian or from, we see the matchup happen and then we can see a knockout, a couple more knockouts for Fiorot. Then we can kind of see her jumping up in there. That's really what I want to see for her because she is a very dangerous fighter, especially how long and tall she is.
I agree with you, AJ, and I'm going to leave it at that. This was a big win by Manon Fiorot because we're going to pivot and we're going to talk about her a little bit more right here in the next segment right now. So let's talk the rankings review, brother. Let's get it. And today we need to really discuss where she's going to be in the division, right? The UFC could place her one way, but believe it or not, AJ, neither of us have her in our own personal top 15. Mistake? Overlook? Let's figure it out. So let's go take a deep dive real quick, AJ, into the rankings. And as we can see here, folks, so on the very far left, if you're watching, folks, you see the UFC's consensus rankings. Then you see my rankings and you see AJ's rankings. So the big thing is that Manon Fiorot was number 13 coming into this fight. I don't have her in my rankings. You don't have her in your rankings. She just beat number 4. So if MMA logic, MMA math makes any sense, she moves up to number 4. I have Lauren Murphy at number 4, and you have Lauren Murphy at number 4 in our own personal rankings. But the question really becomes, who exactly can Manon Fiorot beat in this list of 15? So I want to go from the top, AJ, just because we need to make sure from top to bottom we have it right here. Miranda Maverick. Do you think Fiorot gets past Miranda Maverick?
That's a hard fight. Maverick's always a hard fight. I think Maverick gets that one.
How about Casey King O'Neill, who's been on a hell of a streak herself? Do you think Manon Fiorot can beat Casey O'Neill?
As big of a streak as the King has been on, I think the length of Fiorot might give her a little bit of problems in the striking aspect. Fiorot might have that one.
That's an interesting one. That's an interesting one because what I'm going to do really fast, AJ, as you can see, clearly I'm changing up the screen right here, is I want to look at Manon Fiorot, right? Oh, misspelled that one. I'm going to look at Manon Fiorot, and then I'm going to look up Casey O'Neill. And the reason why I want to do this is because I think that Casey O'Neill might be the bigger fighter just in general, right? So let's see what we got here. Sorry, brother. Got to pull up just a couple of things. Amethyst. There we go. All right, brother. Here we go. So Manon Fiorot, she's 9-1, all that fun stuff, right? But this is what we're going to pull up. We're going to pull up some statistics and all that good stuff. All right, she is 32 years old. She's 5'7" with a 66-inch reach. Now, we're talking about Casey O'Neill. She is 24 years old, 5'6" with a 69-inch reach. So 69 to 66. So Casey O'Neill is actually the longer fighter. She's a tad bit shorter by 1 inch. And she has the youth on her side. So you have the champion, former UAE Warriors champion versus Casey O'Neill, who herself, I do believe, was a champion in her own right. And she fought in UAE Warriors for a split second too. But was she a champion anywhere? She was the strawweight champion in Eternal MMA. So not quite flyweight, but that's neither here nor there. Now that we have that kind of written out, do you change your mind or do you still go with the fact that you think that Manon Fiorot could probably get it done against Casey King O'Neill?
Even though that Casey King has the reach advantage, I still think the style of Fiorot with the length will still give her trouble. Because when I think of Casey King O'Neill, I see her getting on the inside and then doing her best damage right there. Yeah. Whereas Fiorot, I think, works a little bit better on the outside still. We
can say that Casey O'Neill did more or less get into a striking war with Roxanne Modafferi, whatever that's worth. So I will put that out there. Andrea Lee, AJ, you think she can get past Andrea Lee?
I think so. As much as I like KGB Lee as a fighter, she's a little bit up and down. So either she's on that night, doesn't get past her, or she's off and we see a win.
Let's not forget here, AJ, real quick. I just got to put this out there. I believe I was the one who said I was like highly touting Manon Fiorot before she got all these big wins in the UFC, right? Like I was like, oh, you got to watch out for this prospect. But I don't know if I agree with you, bro. I don't know if I agree that she's just starching all these veterans with all this experience. The last name that I got to give, that's not even number 4, Alexa Grasso. We just saw her, what she just did to Joanne Wood. Can she get past Alexa Grasso?
No, I think Alexa Grasso has this, man.
Okay. There we go. Now we got a little consensus here. So if I have,
I thought you were going against her for that.
Oh no. If I have Alexa Grasso at 5 and you have Alexa Grasso at, oh damn, bro, you don't even got. Oh, you got it at 10. All right, we need to fix that up, brother. I think she's a little bit better than 10, right? Then with us, I mean, respectively, she can't be number 4, right? You can't go to number 4 there. You got to at least work your way up just a little bit more. Even though you got the big win over Jennifer Maia, but they do say styles make fights, and I do think that this was just a matchup kind of made for Fiorot, given that Maia was the smaller fighter, all that good stuff, man. I don't even need to go into this too much further, but at the end of the day, where can we agree on a nice middle ground for Manon Fiorot? Where do you think she lands in your rankings? Where should she be in the UFC rankings? All that good stuff. What do you think?
For me personally, on my side, man, I'm moving Alexa Grasso up to around that 5, that 6 area. Going to drop a couple of other ones down, but I can see Manon Fiorot living in that 9, 10 slot right there, man.
Okay,
She's that level of fighter to me right now. Can she get past the big ones? Well, even saying that, I have Miranda Maverick at 14, and I don't think she can get past Miranda Maverick. So. There's gonna be some shaking on, but I can see 12 to 14. Final answer. What about you, Derick?
I'm going to say, because Alexa Grasso was ranked number 11 in the consensus rankings, even though I got Grasso at 5. That's how high I've been on Grasso. I think we can live within that 7 to like 13 range. I think that's where we're going. She's already ranked 13, so 7 to 13. You got there. I don't think I can go higher than that. So we'll leave that for what it's worth, folks. If you have not, go hit up UFC.com to go check out their rankings. And then every single post show on the Bloody Water podcast, we're going to do a check-in, 60 seconds rankings review, do all that stuff. Is it 60 seconds? Never is, but that's neither here nor there. All right, AJ. With that being said, that's the rankings. Let's get into the fighter of the night, brother.
Right now, there is not a man in this planet that can stop me inside this octagon. The celebration is more work than the fight.
Fighter of the night.
Okay, brother. So now it's time to talk about the fighter who had the intangibles, the storyline, the best performance. There was a lot of decisions overall in this card, but that's neither here nor there. There was still some great performances, and I need to know, AJ, who is your fighter of the night for UFC Columbus, brother? Do we got the Sara McManns, Chris Gutierrez, the Aliaskhab Khizriev? Do we got Curtis Blaydes for putting a hand on display? Talk to me, brother. Where are you at here?
You're right, Derick. There's a lot of places to go, and sometimes when your boy gets in a fight and he loses, you got to give respect to the dude that dropped him, man. And I got to give respect to Curtis Blaydes right here, man. Mm-hmm. Showed up, proved a point, said, oh, you think I'm a wrestler? No. I got these 1s and these 2s, and this right hurts just as much as anybody else in this heavyweight division, and I'm going to show you how and why right now. Looks really good in the feet, man. Also able to say something to Stipe in his post-fight, use the most of his mic. It wasn't the an emotional ride or anything. There wasn't too much as far as backstory for any of the fights, really. So, but to me, what really did it for me, for Curtis Blaydes to make him my fighter of the night, was the fact that he still stayed relevant, dude. He's still here. There was a lot of you put that much adversity in any man's life or in anyone's life, you put that much adversity that Curtis Blaydes has faced in his life, most people crumble, man. Most people don't step up to the plate. They don't answer that call. They don't stay up grinding it out like Curtis Blaydes does. He's the absolute epitome of what you want to see a fighter as a wrestler, as somebody who's continuously grinding, never going to stop, going to keep going until he achieves what he wants, and then quits on his own terms. Let's not forget, man, Curtis Blaydes, he was removed from the UFC at one point, went and shopping around. I forget if it was Bellator, if it was one who's going to give him a shiny contract, a lot more money coming in. And he calls up Uncle Dana and says, yo, I'll take my old contract, whatever it was. I just want to fight. I like that. I like that a man knows what he wants and he goes out and says, this is what I want. Here are my stipulations. You accept them or not. Then we can move on after that. Curtis Blaydes taking his future into his own hands, coming back and proving a point, saying this is the sword I'm going to die on. Even if I do lose the knockout way, at least I'm an entertaining fighter now. I like the whole aspect that Curtis Blaydes has it going for him. And for all those reasons, he's my fighter of the night for UFC Columbus. Very, very good win for him, and I'm glad to see it. He's one of those heartfelt, feel-good characters that we don't see too much of in the UFC. What do you think about the pick, Derick, and who you going with?
I thought that was a great pick right there. Curtis Blaydes, it's kind of a layup, right? You know what I mean? He does the thing nobody expects him to do. Shout out to Curtis Blaydes. We didn't see the razor blades on display too much. He tried to drop one on Daukaus after he dropped him, but it didn't happen. But that was a great pick right there. Now, AJ, I did something a little unconventional on the last post-show when I talked about my fighter of the night, and I agreed with you. We went consensus on that one. I'm not doing that this time, but I'm doing something else out the box. Why? Because this is our show, and we can do whatever we want, right? There's not really any rules to this thing. I like to keep it consistent, but I'm going to do something here because I felt like we needed to talk about it. I didn't talk about it in the intro, so if you are one of the few, the brave, the proud that come and stick around to the whole episode, you're getting to hear it right now. All right, this is what I got for my fighter of the night, folks. I'm not talking UFC Columbus. I actually don't have a fighter of the night for UFC Columbus, believe it or not. My fighter of the night is Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, folks. In case you forgot, there was a pay-per-view that happened this weekend. 1X, that's what they called it, right? This is one championship. And Mighty Mouse, Demetrius Johnson, often hailed as one of the best flyweights to ever do it in mixed martial arts or the UFC alone. A dude who has an incredible title defense run on his record, all that good stuff. A dude who got traded to one championship for Ben Askren, who got beat up by a YouTuber in a boxing match. He fought the greatest Muay Thai fighter that the world has known. And we're talking about Mighty Mouse Johnson versus Rodtang. Now, Rodtang has an incredible last name that I'm not willing to attempt to pronounce at the moment, but I do say he has something that I can't pronounce, and that's his record in Muay Thai. 267 wins, 42 losses, 10 draws. Mighty Mouse, on the other hand, let's not forget, this dude wasn't the greatest striker. He was very technical, right? But he's more of a mixed martial artist. He can grapple, he can submit, he had a lot of submissions under his belt. He was overall the full package. Now, when we see round 1 is Muay Thai, round 2 MMA, we see it's a little bit okay, make it fair for both fighters. Round 1, DJ was on his way to getting knocked the hell out by Rodtang, who put it on him. Hooks to the body, big shovel shots, big head kicks, leg kicks, the whole nine. Rodtang is clearly the superior striker, the superior Muay Thai fighter. And what's funny, AJ, is that one thing really quickly, because I'm gonna bring you in on this one. Do you remember it was during the Conor McGregor-Floyd Mayweather boxing match, and they said, this is dangerous. What if McGregor just instinctually resorts to something and tries to just take him down or tries to head kick him? Like, oh my God, it's going to be chaos, right? That never happened. These dudes are professionals. They know what they're doing. However, DJ, in the opening moments where Rodtang started putting on him, he went in 2 underhooks, started grabbing him up for a clinch, and the referee looked at him like, bro, what the fuck are you doing? This is Muay Thai. You better get your shit back, right? And DJ looked for a second. He was like, oh, okay, my fault. And then he settled back in, and then it was a straight up Muay Thai fight. However, you know what I mean? Panic does ensue right there because you're like, oh shit, my back is against the wall. What you saw was Rodtang, AJ, and I don't know if you checked out this fight, so I'm just giving you the cliff notes in case you didn't check out. It was pay-per-view. I had to watch it, you know, in my ways and methods and all that. But basically, Rodtang, he's leading the dance. DJ's back is against the cage immediately. He doesn't know what to do. He's just back and moving, you know, out of sheer panic, you know, trying to stay composed. He gets rocked a couple times. He even admitted it. Round 2 happens. It's MMA rules. All of a sudden, Rodtang back against the cage. He doesn't know what to do. He's just like, okay, I can't really strike because I don't want to get taken down. Well, guess what, AJ? He gets taken down. DJ puts the hooks in. I will admit, Rodtang had a little, kind of some good defense. It made DJ work for the hooks, but he got rear naked choked. And being the warrior that he is, the man went to sleep. You know what I mean? Like, you either, what is it? You nap, snap, or nap, tap, or it snaps, right? He napped on that one. He went to sleep. The point is, AJ, Mighty Mouse did something at the prime age of 35 years old that I don't think a lot of people could have done. He took one of the biggest risks he possibly could have done after getting knocked out in a title match. Come on, brother. DJ, you're my fighter of the night, brother. What else do I got to say? So, folks, I hope you watch it. If you didn't watch it, go watch it back. But, AJ, what do you make of this whole situation, my man? Is he not the greatest of all time? What are we talking about?
One, if not the greatest, one of the greatest to ever do it. I don't know what's a bigger risk, betting on yourself and going to ONE FC, you know, having that whole thing, or betting on yourself again and fighting one of the greatest to ever do it in the stand-up game. Rodtang, folks, if you haven't ever seen his fights, all you got to do, type in the name Rodtang, go see some crazy highlights because this dude's been doing it for years. Ultimate DJ, my man. I like the pick even more than I like Curtis Blaydes' pick, man, because damn, Demetrius did it, bro.
That's all you got to say. Damn. That's it. That's just how we encapsulate this entire event. Damn, DJ, you the man. 35 years old. You got to love to see it, man. That was better. That was more impressive than Will Smith smacking Chris Rock. I'll tell you that much right there. But all right, that is the fighter of the night in the bag right here. And we got one last thing to do. We need to talk about the word on the street. Okay, AJ, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. We have someone near and dear to us on this program. ESPN suspends Chael, the bad guy, Sonnen, pending a resolution of his criminal case. I don't know if you heard about this, man. There was a little situation, a little altercation that he got into, and I'm going to read it real fast. So let's actually pull it up so the good folks at home can read it too. Chael Sonnen is not in the clear yet when it comes to his hotel room altercation with 5 individuals. This is reported by calfkicker.com. So I'm not, I don't know how reputable this is, but we're just going to talk about it, right? Basically, the TMZ was first to break the news that the MMA veteran has been charged 11 times, including 1 for felony over the Las Vegas incident. So once again, folks, I'm going to tell you this, AJ, I tell you this all the time. Vegas is probably not the place you want to go just fighting randoms, right? Because you have dudes who are either aspiring to be in the UFC, in MMA, into boxing, or these dudes are actually former, legit fighters. Chael Sonnen, you don't want to just run into this dude and start doing some of this stuff, right? Court records reveal prosecutors filed charges last week. The biggest charge is the felony battery by strangulation. The other 10 charges are misdemeanor battery charges. So obviously, Uncle Chael had to put somebody in the rear naked one time. Listen, man, at the end of the day, this dude got into a fight with multiple other individuals. Word on the street is it was some superhero effort where he fought 5 dudes and whooped everyone's ass. I don't know how true any of this is, but the point is you can't be a figure like Uncle Chael and go out fighting people and expect that nothing is going to happen. This is what it is. What do you make of the situation?
Oh man, I'm excited for more to come out of it because I've heard a couple different stories where Chael was in the right. And sometimes I think the biggest lucky thing that happened for these guys is Uncle Chael said he's going to put you to sleep instead of break your neck, which is one step away. You're one quick angry moment away from losing that. So lucky, unlucky. It's interesting because I think Uncle Chael, it was something like 5-on-1. Some said some foul to his wife. Chael showed up. Yeah, you don't want to be doing that to the biggest arms in West Lynn. So lucky that he only put you to sleep. That's what I gotta say, man. In
the wise words of Chael Sonnen, I cannot let you get close. We'll just leave it at that. All right, AJ. Next up, my man. Daniel Cormier, former UFC double champion right there, thinks Dan Hooker is becoming a UFC gatekeeper. Quote, "It's actually sad." Now, listen, I don't even really need to necessarily read into this anymore. The headline says it, it says everything there is to say about this. Do you agree? Do you think Dan Hooker is becoming a gatekeeper, or do you think that he is fought? Because we just talked about this after he, lost his last fight to Arnold Allen. This dude has fought the stiffest competition in his respective divisions, whether it was 155, 145 pounds. Never says no to a fight. Always game. Even when he doesn't have a camp. Even when he just says, "Fuck it, I'm flying across the world. I'm not going to see my kids for a better half of a year, whatever the case. I'm willing to scrap. I'm willing to fight whoever you want." And we get rewarded because Dana White says, this dude fights the top of his, the most talented dudes in his division. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. He's not getting cut. Are you crazy? What do you make of the situation? Is he a gatekeeper, or do you think he just fights the top of the top?
I think he fights at the top of the top, man. And then is he on the way to becoming a gatekeeper? Quite possibly. Yeah. Is that a sad thing or is that a bad thing? Not at all, man. Nah. You know who doesn't lose their jobs are the gatekeepers. The ones that have to hold the gate open for the new dudes coming in. Those are the ones that don't lose their jobs. And Dan Hooker is very much that guy who's going to be continuously eating and still has the opportunity to advance his career. Yeah. I don't think it's a sad thing at all. I think if you're not able to get the crown or you're not able to get the crown, but you are able to hold that gatekeeper position, it is a very touted position, even though it does get a little looked down upon.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. And let's not forget, the dude who had one of the biggest pops on UFC Columbus, Matt Brown. Has that dude won a championship? No, not quite. So we'll just leave it at that. Andrei Arlovsky, even though he is a former champion, he is more or less a gatekeeper today, still keeping the thing up and running. There's no shame at being good at your job, folks. I will just put it at that, man. If you have an established career, if you have 10 fights, 10 wins in the UFC, that's a great career, dude. You can't just, put your head down at that. Either way, folks, that is the word on the street. Short and sweet this time around. And let's talk the intro, AJ, or the outro, brother. We have UFC 273 next week, so I would just leave it at that. Alex Volkanovski is defending his title against Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie. Should be a good one. I will leave that for a later date. We'll talk about that more. Also, Aljo versus Piotr Jan. Listen, brother, beef. Finally, we get to see it. Let's not forget, Aljamain Sterling has been a paper champion in the bantamweight division for over a year, brother. He's not defended it now one time. So I will say that is something impeccable, incredible. Yeah, brother, that's really all I got on this. Fun card, right, AJ? Would you agree? Fun card at UFC Columbus.
Woo. Yeah, fun card, man. Maybe not the fight we wanted to see happen in the championship match for Volkanovski, but the rematch or the triple, the rematch, the Peter Yan Aljo. That's gonna be a
Rematch, yeah.
banger, man.
Yeah.
Very excited for that one.
Yeah.
Gonna be a banger all around because anytime you got the zombie in the mix marching you down, it's gonna be fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. I will say, do you think, because obviously this is happening in like Arizona or something like that, I'm pretty sure this is where this fight's taking place. Do you think the UFC is willing to go back to just these like quiet Apex events, given that the crowds at Columbus, at London, at these spots are going nuts, bro? Like it's the vibe is different. The impact on the judging is different. Everything is different. It's more lively. It's what you want to see out of fights. You want to see the crowd. You want to see the engagement. However, Apex, I mean, it's tried and true. It's a staple. They'll fight in there. That is their home court right there for the UFC right there in Las Vegas. So what do you make of it, man? Do you think that they're going to be willing to go back to it, or are we expecting to see the UFC on the road much more in the near future? Are we back to normal? COVID over. What do you think?
Man, I think with Uncle Dana at the wheel, I think COVID's over. We're going to be seeing a lot more traveling going on. I like it / dislike at the same point because the crowd does sway the judges a lot.
Yeah.
The wrestling starts happening. We started seeing the held down. Like, was it the Magny? No, it wasn't the Magny fight. It was the Diakiese, where the crowd started booing, and then you started kind of see a little bit more action. So we might see it happen that way, but then we see more accurate judging in the Apex. I don't know. I think I think there's good and both bad. There's good and bad out of both. Either way, I'm excited to hear more fans. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, listen, I'm just trying to see some good scraps, some great action, great founds, the whole nine. Crowd, you love it. All right, folks, that's it for us, man. We've been talking too much. Do not forget, 40 and 20 a pop. It is 0-0 going into next week, folks. So listen, 66.67% accuracy, respected for me and for AJ. If you want good picks, if you want to make money on your wagers, you know where to go, bloodywaterpodcast.com. Hit us up on Instagram at bloodywaterpodcast, on Twitter at bloodywaterpod, and if anything, you just hit up bloodywaterpodcast.com, the home, the hub for everything you need related to our show. Subscribe on YouTube, all the fun stuff. Any last words, brother?
Man, you said it best, Derek. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit us up at the hub, and share with your friends. That's the biggest thing. And we are still checking those comments. I see a whole bunch out there. Go hit us up. Let us know what you're winning, man. I know y'all winning some money. When even though it was a little rough week for me, it's 0-0 going forward, and we're going to be going at it back and forth. You know where to get the best material, the best show in the entire MMA community right here. Let us know. Right here, right now, you dig. We will do it again on Friday for the preview show going into UFC 273. Until next time, folks. Peace.